Okay, so here's the scene I'm working with. I'm actually going to try to paint some people fishing, but they're moving around quite a bit, so I'm just going to try to keep it abstract and work quickly. All right, I'm painting over an old 11 by 14 inch panel, sketching in burnt sienna, and the first thing I need to decide is where I want the figure and how big I want the figure to be. Something like that, just to decide on the scale. I don't want the figure to be too small because I don't want to get bogged down painting small shapes. So this feels good here, this size. Now I'm going to eliminate the horizon because I'm actually looking down on the subject. All right, so I'll get back to see how I feel about the placement. Something like that. All right, so I've got a dark mixture here using ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. I'm not going to be too particular about getting the drawing exactly right. I will be using the background or the negative space to carve out the positive space or the positive figure here. I've been wanting to add figures to my paintings, to my plein air paintings, but I've sort of been struggling to figure out what I want them to be doing. As you guys know, I like to paint at the beach, so painting activities that are near the ocean, something that feels natural to me. So fishing is kind of an obvious choice, but I think I want the legs a little bit wider. And the pole is kind of like that. Okay, I want to have sand in the foreground, just at the bottom. And I want to have it kind of coming across at an angle. As I've said before, painting over an old panel is really fun because it just allows you to play around and not worry about wasting a good panel. All right, I've got a mid-tone blue-green here just to eliminate the sky. And I'll keep some of this activity in the foreground. The nice thing is I could use the background waves in any kind of way I want as far as abstract patterns go. And I am going to try to load on some thick paint here and create some energy. Okay, suggest some light here to define the legs. And maybe narrow the leg a little bit on this side. There's also some reflection in the water that I'll be adding after. So I've got one brush for lights and one brush for darks because I'm going to be going back and forth quite a bit, trying to work out this figure. It's difficult because you've got to quickly look at the figure and then the figure moves. I think if I do this regularly, I'll develop a shorthand for the figure. Could be good to come out here sometime and just quickly sketch people fishing or standing around with surfboards, stuff like that. Back to the lighter brush, which this is a number 6 natural bristle flat. I think I need to make the head a little smaller. And this arm can be up. So I'm basically just looking for an interesting silhouette here. I feel like I need to move the legs over just a little bit. All right, back to the dark brush here. Maybe I'll start suggesting some of the dark reflections in the water. He's got a jacket on, kind of comes like that. I do like the scale. I think the scale of the figure is good. I was trying to decide how big I want the figure to be, and I can experiment with various different paintings where I have the figure smaller or maybe even larger, but I felt like this was a good size considering the fact that the panel is fairly small. I'm adding a few suggested details, just like a strap over his shoulder. He's also got some sort of bag on the side here like that. All right, back to my dark brush. So it's this process of back and forth between positive and negative shapes. All right, the bottom of the fishing pole is kind of thicker. I kind of like that this line is broken up. I don't want it to be too perfect. It's like he's also got a bag over his shoulder this way as well. Now overall, I like the arrangement. I feel like there needs to be maybe something out here like a wave to kind of balance it out. Maybe something like that. All right, I've loaded up the brush and I want to lighten the background here, create some atmosphere. And I want to keep the brushwork fairly vigorous. I don't want to be too careful here. I want this to be kind of messy and crazy. A lot of times when I get my paintings home, I realize that I could have pushed the looseness or the energy more than I did. Whenever I'm in the field, I always feel like I'm maybe pushing too much, and then I get it home and realize that I could have pushed it further. All right, I want to simplify some of these shapes. And I will work with some of the shapes that I've already got. But I want there to be chaos, but I want also, I do want there to be a design. I feel like I want some energy up here. I'm not even sure what it is I'm looking for, but just thinking of putting in some color and some movement. Another thing I like about painting over old panels is that you get little bits of color coming through that are sort of unintended but appreciated nonetheless. I'm always trying to think of ways to get light into a painting. Like I ask myself, where's the light? I'm thinking maybe I could suggest some light out in the distance here. This is a mixture of titanium white with some cadmium yellow medium. All right, this is a turquoise from Utrecht. I think it's called Vivid Turquoise Deep. I want to add a few saturated notes in here. They're definitely exaggerated, but it's okay. I'm gonna gray it down a little bit. But I feel like having some of these saturated notes, it can really create interest and energy that just, yeah, that helps make the painting more lively. I feel like that's what we're, trying to do is interpret a scene and not just reproduce it directly. We're interpreting, and we are using color and value and everything and all the, the tools that we have at hand, which are somewhat limited, but using those in a way to kind of, as I've mentioned before, recreate the lived experience. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of red here. All right, mixing up a brighter, thicker red. I've got permanent red medium from Rembrandt, and then cadmium yellow medium. If it doesn't work, or if it feels like too much, obviously I can always tone it down or remove it. I feel like it was too much. I'm going to go back in with some dark tones here. right, now I'm using a synthetic number 6. I'm just going to lighten the value off in the distance to maybe help create some depth. All right, so here's what I finished up with. As I mentioned, I wanted to keep this painting feeling loose and spontaneous. I did not want the figure to feel overworked. So I tried to keep the brushwork fairly sketchy in the figure and then use the negative space around the figure to define the shape. Sort of a back and forth between positive and negative shapes there until I got a silhouette that I was happy with. I also wanted to put some color into the painting to boost the vitality, so added these notes of turquoise and little bits of red on the sweatshirt. Overall, I'm really pleased with the way this turned out, and I'm looking forward to experimenting with doing some more plein air figure painting. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. It's a Patreon support that helps keep me making these videos, and it's much appreciated, so check it out. Other than that, stay creative, and I'll see you guys in the next video.